Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Mcintire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome back into the program. This is your Game Plan for Retirement, brought to you by Northwestern Ohio's resource for that common sense approach to our financial, investment, and retirement planning. He is president and founder of Mcintire Retirement Services. Chris Mcintire once again with us. Chris, welcome back in.
Good to be with you, Peter. How's everybody?
We are doing well on this side, Chris, and of course want to start today's program. A special shout out to all the moms out there. Happy Mother's Day, ladies.
Absolutely. Yep. My mom's 83 years old and love her dearly, of course.
Well, perhaps, we've been through it personally, Chris. Almost certainly we know someone who has. This generation, Chris, the generation that is retiring now has been called many things. Baby boomers, the most active generation, remaining active through our retirement years. We've got dreams, we got hopes, we got aspirations, we've got things to do in retirement. We've also been called the sandwich generation, and we are seeing that because maybe it's taken a little longer to get the kids up and out, but also increasingly, we are tasked with taking care of aging parents. And so we're sort of caught in the middle there, having to plan not only mentally and emotionally, but also financially to help take on some additional elements of family support. And so on today's program, talking about really what is, Chris, kind of the reason behind planning. I think that any of us as individuals, if we had no other concerns, we could do for ourselves. But the reason why we plan financially is so that we can provide some amount of protection for those that we care about. Money not being the most important of all aspects of that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Peter. And that's kind of been the theme of part of 2020 and 2021 for my wife and I. I've got an 87-year-old father that had hernia surgery recently. He could not go on our trip to the Outer Banks with us. We wanted to get them out of town and spend some quality time, and something came up. At the same time, a 92-year-old father-in-law in a rehab center, and trying to get him qualified for more care so we can work his way getting home. And then we also care for a dear friend of ours who has a cognitive issue and responsible for a lot of that. So it's like my wife and I don't have any kids, but now we've got 4.
Chris, do you think that people who have seen this firsthand, whether it be within their own family or maybe a close friend or relative that has experienced this job of becoming a late stage caretaker or providing some amount of continued care for parents or relatives, do you think that they take the process of planning and preparing for themselves that much more seriously as a result?
Yes, no question about it. The people that have dealt with a parent going into a care type facility and writing $6,000 to $8,000 a month checks are going to be the ones overwhelmingly that have taken care of that for themselves. I'm a perfect example of that. I just got another life insurance policy on myself at age 56 that has a nice long-term care benefit on it, adding to one that I already had in place after watching my wife spend $190,000 a year for the friend that we care for to keep her in her home for 24/7 care. $190,000 a year. Guess what? That money, most of it, came from an insurance company to pay that bill to keep her in her house. Okay. So they saw it coming way back down the road, some cognitive issues in the genetic predisposition, if you will. And that's something we're seeing more and more. So if you've got a loved one that had a cognitive issue, same with your aunts or your uncles, right down the bloodline, do yourself a favor and get some protection in place well ahead of time. Your healthcare directives, your powers of attorney, things that aren't necessarily financially related to a hot stock or a hot mutual fund are omnipotent in this planning process for your retirement. Otherwise, you risk writing $6,000 a month checks, and now and that's cheap, 6,000 a month. Really it's about 8,000.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned both the cost and the expense, and then also some of the outside of the financial realm protections that we need to put in place. It's not just a financial consideration here. Although, Chris, there are a few different options in the financial realm of how to address this question, and perhaps none of them are a perfect solution, but almost any of them are better than nothing at all.
Yeah, Peter, you are absolutely right. Having a plan in place is better than no plan at all. Otherwise, we're defaulting to the state of Ohio, and we've going through that right now with my wife's father. Limited resources, like many millions of Americans. He's a Korean War veteran and working hard farmer, but we've got to go through a lot of the state of Ohio and also the VA for resources, instead of tapping a long-term care policy for $6,000-7,000 a month. And but still, that's not 24/7 care at home. I mean, that is incredibly expensive. We have a lot of personal experience in that. So I'm very emotional and heartfelt about this, that guys, you would definitely want to get money from someone else to pay those bills versus your 401k that you had intended to pass on to your children. So, doing some advanced planning here is incredibly important, and probably something we did more of in 2020, even in the pandemic, than any other time in our career. And I certainly hope that continues.
Now you're talking about leveraging your money, providing that additional protection through different types of insurance. And we'll get into how we can address this. But basically, Chris, it comes down to, we can go the route where we are self-insured. And you probably run into people who can justify the fact that they can cover costs and expenses of medical care. However, still, I think those people like to be efficient with their money, and for probably just a few dollars, maybe a percent of that portfolio value a year, they can protect the assets that are giving them that confidence. We can go the route where we're leveraging and finding some insurance to maybe protect and help to be more protected that way. Or we can go the route where we're dependent on friends, family, loved ones, which may not be the optimal route. Or we could be dependent on the government. And you tapped on this one as well. If we default to that last one, and that's a lot of people's plans. Oh, well, Medicaid is going to be there for me. Well, if that is our plan, there's a couple things I think that people need to know that we may not fully understand. If we are dependent on the government and on the Medicaid first, they sort of get to decide the level of care, what care is provided. And then they're going to require that if we have money, if we have assets, you spend your own money to provide for that care before they step in and chip in at all, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So my father-in-law, for example, had some pneumonia, and he's 92. So he's got some aging issues, as is common, and was in a rehab center trying to get up his strength again to try to get him back home. The insurance company, through Medicare, that was paying for the rehab stopped paying. So then he went from the rehab to the nursing home part, okay, where they don't do any rehab or do it twice a week. So, and then part of that rehab bills $50 for 15 minutes. Okay. My father-in-law is 92 years old. It takes 15 minutes to put his shoes on. Okay. So how much rehab do you really get? Where, on the other side of, our friend with a cognitive issue has a long-term care policy that pays $9,000 a month.
Well, Chris, I think that we need to look at maybe the 4 W's here and ask ourselves a few questions. When I need care, who is going to provide it? Where do I want to get that care? And if we answer those 3 questions, we can probably arrive at a conclusion of number 4. What do I need to do about this today?
You're absolutely right. So, how much is it worth to risk writing an $8,000 a month check, or the burden on your children? So we have a lot of policies that we utilize nowadays that are much more user friendly than old school long-term care policies that typically are a use it or a lose it. Okay. And premiums have been getting jacked up. The industry saw that weakness and it has made a lot of different adjustments to that. And actually has a lot of policies that say, look, if your kids are taking care of you, we will help you. You can reimburse them for that care. So, there are a number of different more user-friendly policies than ever before to offset that cost. And then if they don't use it and end up, being one of the fortunate enough ones, maybe to die quickly, if there is such a term, then that policy will pay out as a tax-free death benefit. So again, kind of a, if we want to call this a win-win situation, but not a use it or lose it type premise. We've gotten away from that.
Well, again, there's a number of different approaches to this from a financial planning perspective, and to look over your options to discuss which approach is most appropriate for you and your situation, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call. This is part of the discussion in formulating your game plan for retirement, is addressing these healthcare issues. And Chris has those conversations with savers and investors each and every day there at Mcintire Retirement Services, helps prudent planners plan for this issue along with many others. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. And Chris, you've touched on a few of these different approaches. Let's sort of dive into each one, if you would. The most commonly thought of is kind of that traditional long-term care insurance policy, which a lot of people shied away from for any number of reasons, but one being that it's use it or lose it and was rather expensive. But if you would dive into that and talk about that particular approach, and if that is something that is still maybe appropriate for some to consider.
Certainly, yeah. The old school style of long-term care insurance says, okay, I'm going to pay X number of dollars a year, and it's going to give me a certain monthly or a daily benefit, and it might have an inflation piece on it so that as time goes on, that benefit increases. Now, the old school style, unfortunately, some of those premiums were allowed to increase over time and, left a bad taste in some people's mouths. And some of them had some pretty restrictive areas on how you could use it. It might have had to been licensed professionals in a facility versus at home. And so, where the newer type policies that we are doing is like a hybrid life insurance policy, if you will. So if you don't use it, you pass away, and a income tax-free death benefit gets paid out to beneficiaries free of probate and income tax. But if you do need part of that for long-term care needs, that might be at home. Now you can tap a portion of the death benefit. So let's just say $300,000 death benefit, and you can use 3% of that a month. That's $9,000 a month. In some cases, you can pay anybody you want to, as long as the person you're giving care for qualifies for that type of assistance, like 2 or 6 activities of daily living. So maybe they can't give themselves insulin. Maybe they need some help cooking meals or getting dressed, going to the restroom, that type of thing. ADLs, most people are familiar with that, activities of daily living.
So, Chris, the approach to this has changed and evolved over the years. And that traditional long-term care insurance, it was not only problematic for us as individuals trying to figure out and navigate, what do I do about these expenses? This was the go-to option, maybe 15, 20 years ago, more often than not, if we chose to address it. But it was expensive, it was use it or lose it, and the prices were not set. And in fact, it was problematic for the insurance companies and the insurance industry as well, because there used to be many, many companies that offered this. Now there's only a few, I think less than a handful, 3 or 4 that offer this. If there's a product that is profitable for those companies, they're not going to quit offering it. They basically have exited that product because they underestimated the number of people who would need it. They underestimated the length of time that they would require the care for, and they underestimated the cost of that care. And so now, as a result, they have exited that space. And a lot of people who had those old policies have gotten notice that they are going to be required to begin paying more for the premiums that they once had.
Yes, and that's where, using the hybrid life insurance policy is more user friendly because look, your premiums don't change over time. You got a contractual agreement where traditional long-term care policies, you might have had a 5-year freeze, but then premiums could adjust based on the cost of care, like Peter just said. So, life insurance policies have that base premium in there to, and we run illustrations on, okay, how much has to be put in to make sure that this policy is guaranteed to age 120 is about where we go with them anymore. Not many people live past age 120, but back in the day, we used to do them to 100, right? And now we've, factored that out there, out to age 100 and 120. And then a lot of times, Peter, we'll use universal life, or a version of universal life insurance where, all right, hey, we got a bunch of cash value in here and it's doing its thing now. And we can, now we can lessen the premium, going into it and use some of the cash reserves to help pay for those insurance premiums as well. And again, these aren't old school universal policies. These are new, 2020, 2021 universal policies with a guaranteed death benefit, some certain long-term care riders or chronic illness riders, some of them will call them, and a number of great companies. A lot of people are in this space now, so competition is good.
And as a result, the insurance companies have structured this product to where they know now their liability. There's that bucket of money out there that one way or another, they are going to give you access to, whether it be for long-term care or chronic or critical illness expenses, or as that death benefit. So they've sort of solved a problem on their end, and it's helped us to have a known cost for a certain benefit on our end. If anything in the financial world can be said to be a win-win, Chris, I really think this is an area where that could be said to be true.
Certainly, Peter. If you think about the law of large numbers, which is how they base life insurance, when you get a life insurance policy, the insurance company has to be prepared to pay that death benefit the next day. So to structure that and make it an affordable long-term care hybrid type policy is, now they're just paying out part of those death benefits on a monthly basis. So it's built on a life insurance chassis, not like a health insurance chassis, I suppose is probably a good definition.
Now that being said, Chris, there are qualifications health-wise when you're applying for life insurance. And so we need to address this issue proactively when we are healthy. The younger we are, the healthier we are. That's going to be our best asset to get affordable coverage at an affordable price.
Yeah, we have a client that we just did a policy like this. She actually had some cash value in an old school life insurance policy, but it didn't have long-term care benefits. And we moved over tax-free about $40,000 of cash value in an old policy, increased her death benefit by maintaining the premiums even. And she had been a smoker, and the insurance company says, all right, we're going to underwrite it as a smoker. 12 months from now, we'll revisit it and underwrite it again and give you non-smoking to lower the premium. So, there are a lot of different factors that are out there, and this person had cancer previously, it'd been more than 5 years. So, just because you've had some health issues, doesn't mean you can't automatically get some insurance coverage. A lot of times, but underwriting is what is the key to all of it. And it doesn't cost anything to go through underwriting. And again, wouldn't you rather know what your alternatives are than, all right, I'm just going to go to the state of Ohio. My father-in-law can keep $50 a month. Wow. That's it.
Wow. Now, Chris, on the other side of this, there is an alternative approach, utilizing some of the newer types of annuities. As I understand it, you can get some of these long-term care or healthcare protections in certain ones without having the medical underwriting and qualification aspect. Can you address those for a minute?
Certainly. Yeah. A number of different companies out there have added some provisions to their annuity products that would allow you to structure an income stream, and it might even double that income stream if you had become incapacitated, and it would not necessitate and it would not require you to go through any sort of underwriting whatsoever. It's just you're handing money over, you're using an annuity for tax deferral for some long-term growth pieces. And then it's also got the ability that if you went into a nursing home to expand on some of the benefits within there, and they're just taking the risk that fewer people are going to need that. But very popular, Peter, as you know, we're doing quite a bit of that with folks that have money in a CD that's doing nothing for them, probably losing purchasing power with inflation, having the ability to keep up with that, and trying to kill two birds with one stone, or maybe even three, if you will.
Well, if you would like to look at your options, if you would like to carefully examine this important question and an aspect of planning, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. And Chris, I know that a lot of people want to provide those additional protections for their family, for their loved ones. And that's really what the planning is all about. I do want to look at this in the aspect, though, that this and not cold, not callous, not selfish, but this is also protection for ourselves, to give ourselves that financial confidence. And I know you've flown in planes many times, maybe not recently over the past year or so, but when you board that plane before they take off, almost without exception, they give that standard safety protocol. And part of that speech is, if there's turbulence, if there's problems in the air and you are traveling with small children, masks will drop from the ceiling. Make sure you secure your own mask first before helping those children that you may be traveling with. And I think that this is sort of the same thing. If we are not planning to provide ourselves with the stability and confidence, then we are not really helping those that we care about. We're not providing them any additional stability. And in fact, we may become a liability on them. So again, we need to examine this from the question of let's plan and prepare for ourselves. And that, as a result, will help those around us and those that we care about.
Yeah, Peter. And in my household, ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with both issues. One extreme where we have a long-term care policy kicking out $9,000 a month. The other extreme where we're relying on what Medicaid, the state of Ohio, the Veterans Administration is going to offer a loved one. So both extremes we're dealing with as I'm recording this show right now, and you would not believe the time and effort that both of those cases require from loved ones that are helping to take care. Still got to pay bills, still have to file income taxes, maintain a household, all of those things that come with it. So Robin and I kind of joke, we have 4 adult children now.
but in one of those situations, the money's coming from somewhere else. And in the other situation, it's being drained from personal assets and reserves and accounts. And that's the big difference, leveraging your money to provide that additional protection. And ladies and gentlemen, again, if you would like to look at this important question, if you would like to examine your approach to this issue, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris will run through your game plan for retirement, looking at all aspects of your planning, the investments, the income, the healthcare, the taxes, the legacy. And Chris, part of those considerations is going to be that healthcare piece and what we can do to plan and prepare for those costs and expenses into the future. Again, if you'd like to take Chris up on that, pick up the phone now, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. This question, it doesn't ever stop being important, does it? I mean, we need to really look at how to address this proactively and on an ongoing basis.
Peter, and I'm passionate about this one here. I've had a wife that had to have a tumor removed. And thankfully, 6 months before that, we got a life insurance policy on her with a long-term care benefit, because we probably can't get that now. I have 2 policies that pay on me for long-term care benefits and life insurance as well. I'll share with you what I've got. If it works for me, it'll probably work for you as well, folks. I am passionate about this part of your planning that most people hope it won't happen to them. Don't do it just on hope.
Yeah. Hope is good to have, but yeah, not a plan. Again, if you'd like to get a true plan put together, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call. He's willing to share with you what he does personally for his own protection, having seen this issue in his own family. That's the testament that you can get from Chris Mcintire and the team from Mcintire Retirement Services, firsthand account. And if you've seen this firsthand, you know how important it is to plan and prepare. Give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. You mentioned this at the beginning of the program, Chris, but the coordination here, and I know that you don't design the legal documents, you don't put those together, but you know where those are important as well. And this is a matter where it really emphasizes the importance of coordinated, careful planning between the legal professional, the financial professional, and the tax professional.
Certainly. And if something was to happen to you where you could not make a financial decision, do you want your children to have to go to court to get the guardianship to be able to pay your bills? Or would you rather just have a financial power of attorney in place that is ready to go in force if that was to happen to you? And we are dealing with that right now. And thankfully, everybody that entrusted us with their care has given us the financial power of attorney. And I'm talking about family members, obviously not clients. We're not allowed to do that for them.
Well, Chris, again, making an offer to speak with you about this, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like to formulate your game plan for retirement, if it's been a while since you checked up and reviewed on your plan, or if you understand in the back of your mind that this maybe is an issue that your plan does not address, and it's been that seed of doubt and concern in your mind, pick up the phone, do something about it, be proactive, take those steps today. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. And Chris will help you formulate your game plan for retirement. Similar reviews and planning with a qualified, experienced professional, by the way, can easily go upwards of $1,000 to several thousands of dollars. Chris charges nothing for it. No cost, no obligation to get that plan put together. 800-868-1194. And Chris, you actually have an additional resource of the 4 approaches to addressing long-term care and medical expenses in retirement. We've talked about that one before on the program. That's a great one that can get people going, because yet another report, the 3 largest expenses in retirement. Taxes probably our largest known expense. Inflation is kind of the silent thief, and that can eat away at our nest egg. But this question of healthcare is the largest potential expense that we may have in retirement, and why we need to address it through one of these approaches.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Peter. And, no one knows what our health care is going to be. Are we going to have a heart attack and pass away suddenly? And it's pretty clean and simple from that regard.
That's what we would all hope, right?
Correct. Yeah. Or is it going
Ironically.
to be, my wife's mom spent 5.5 years in a nursing home, and that's probably not the way most of us would want to do it, and hurt my wife included.
Well, again, if you would like to have these conversations, this is one that you really need to have. This is a necessity. This is something that, while it may not be the conversation that everybody looks forward to afterwards, you can be much more confident that you've got a plan in place to give yourself financial stability and stability of quality of life, and to provide that much additional protection to your loved ones, those that count and depend on you, and that you are providing support and protection to. So give a call. It's a necessity in your financial planning. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. And sort of, Chris, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, and I think that you are an example of this. Those that have experienced this firsthand often take it that much more seriously, but we all need to take this seriously, because it is such an impactful event. Even the best laid financial plans really can have gaping holes and be on unfirm foundation if we have not addressed this issue.
I would certainly agree with that. And the long-term care type of planning is probably the most overlooked or ignored, intentionally ignored, hoping it won't happen to you. And hope is not a plan, folks. We all have hope that we live a nice, healthy life. I get that. What if you don't?
Yeah, well, burying your head in the sand is not adding additional protection, still leaves that backside exposed. So let's make sure that we have a plan that provides that protection. Pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire Retirement Services a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, always an informative half-hour program here with you on your game plan for retirement. Thank you for being here as the resource to remind savers and investors, those planning carefully for our financial future across Northwestern Ohio, of the important issues and helping us navigate them.
It's my pleasure, folks. I hope you appreciate my passion for today's topic. Thank you very much, and stay safe, folks.
Visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.